Hello everyone, welcome to my channel, Lori of Lemuria. My name is Lori, and today I wanted to do a video on a meditation I just came out of. So I was brought into this room. Adama, who is the high priest of Telos, he took me into a room inside the city today to begin to explore and meet many different star beings that are currently in that city. So Telos is the fifth dimensional city. Actually, it's a multi-dimensional city. It's not just fifth dimensional, but it's a multi-dimensional city within Mount Shasta. Holds really high frequencies, and there's a lot of star beings that are really active in that space right now. And so Adama took me into this room, and I met a star being that I believe came from a system called Beta, which I'd never heard of. Maybe people have. I've never heard of this star system, and I started communicating with this being, and he began to, and when I say he, it's just the frequency, the energy I felt was more masculine. And I was asking what he's here to share with humanity. And he was talking about the balancing of the masculine and the feminine and the role the ego plays in it. And so I just began listening to what he was sharing. And he was explaining how we have lived for so many thousands of years, tens of thousands of years, in that masculine energy, right? Which is, it's not male, so to speak, like how we think of like a male being. It's a frequency, it's an energy, it's just it's a way of sort of engaging on the planet, and it's much more from the mind, right? So when you're in a masculine frequency, you're doing, you're being, you're creating, you're very active. Sometimes you're more aggressive. It's not passive at all, right? So you're much more in the ego. The ego loves to live in that mind space, in that masculine frequency. And so when Lemuria sank and Atlantis sank, when we emerged from that fall from grace, the feminine frequency that we were capable of holding during that time was cut off. And so, because what you have to realize is when we were these really connected, highly evolved beings, we were able to balance and hold the frequency of both the masculine and the feminine. So although people that lived in Lemuria believed that it was just a heart-centered frequency, it was the balancing of both. So the beings on Lemuria were balanced in both the masculine and the feminine. So there was an equilibrium. There wasn't a pro or con or a good or bad or, oh, you're more masculine or you're more feminine, or you're holding the heart-centered consciousness and you're holding the mind-centered consciousness. It was a equilibrium. It was a integration. It was a balancing of both. And so we lived thousands of years after that, only really able to feel and hold this masculine frequency. And so what is beginning to happen as we are ascending and as the planet is ascending and as we are awakening, the Mother God of us is beginning to flood down into us again, the feminine consciousness, the heart-centered consciousness, which some people call Mother God. Father God is more of that masculine mind consciousness. And so our hearts are beginning to awaken, right? That light is starting to spark within our hearts. And we're beginning to learn how to merge, how to integrate this masculine frequency that's been driving our lives, the force behind everything, and the heart. And how do we merge these two frequencies? Because the feminine consciousness that people call is rising. It's not rising. It's flooding in, and we are integrating it. And so there is this education of how do we integrate both. So how do we begin to soften and surrender, which is heart-centered consciousness, feminine consciousness? And how do we continue to create and build and move forward? The masculine, the mind, right? How do I flow, heart-centered, and continue to walk forward on my path? The masculine, the mind, the doing. How do I become one with everything, wholeness, heart-centered, and remain sovereign, knowing that I am my own being, right, in my own space, masculine, the masculine frequency. How do I begin to make decisions based from my heart and allow my ego, that masculine, to integrate into that decision making, right? And so then we begin to look at how the ego structure and how the structure of the humanity of us, you can't get rid of that structure. You cannot dissolve the ego. The ego isn't going to go anywhere. And so it's a beautiful part of being a human being on the planet. And just like you can't dissolve the mind, okay, you can learn to integrate the mind into the heart, and you can learn to integrate the ego into the heart space and merge these two, right? So that when you begin to start making decisions in your life, when you start to learn to create from a space that is both heart-centered, so here to bring that heart frequency, that love frequency out, and sort of still continue to do what is best for you and your sovereignty. So beginning to hold both humanity and yourself together. The ego is going to want to take charge and sort of feed the part of you that needs to look good, the part of you that needs to be seen, the part of you that needs to be heard, the part of you that needs more likes, that needs more followers, that needs more assurance, that needs more love, right? So that ego part is going to want to play a major role. And so what's happening through our awakening, and through our opening up of really bringing in this light and who are we, is that the ego is starting to really want to take charge, right? Look at how great I am. Look at who I can channel. Look at all the information I'm receiving. Look at what I can do. Look at who I am, right? It's beautiful. It's just the ego. But it's extremely important to be aware of that, because as you are learning how to integrate the masculine and the feminine, right? Those two frequencies, the heart-centered frequency, the feminine frequency is not ego. Okay, it's It's love. It's pure energetic love. And so how do you take that pure energetic love and merge it with an ego that has been trying to control your life and feed you? So you have to listen to that ego, right? You have to listen to what it's saying and what it needs from the world, and begin to feed yourself from your heart instead, from what is best going to serve humanity, what is best going to serve the person walking down the street, as opposed to what is best going to serve, that neediness within me. And so beginning to ask yourself, am I doing this because I need to receive something? Or am I doing this because I want to share, give, provide, serve, right? That's the difference between ego and heart, right? And then you come to the place of, so once you start asking yourself, okay, so my next, let's just say it's a post you're going to post, right? My next post I'm posting, or my next story I'm going to give, or my next YouTube video, or my next blog, right? Is it coming from a place of ego, where I am needing to receive something from people? Or is it coming from a place of heart, which is love and serving, just wanting to give? So that's the first step. Where is this coming from? What am I needing? And neither are, it's not wrong or right or wrong or good or bad. It's just being aware of who's wanting to give this information out. What am I needing? What am I asking for in return, if anything? And then you begin to figure out how to merge both of those. So how do I listen to that beautiful ego that wants to be seen and loved and honored and, give me all those likes and all those comments and, followers and all of that, right? And serve and just share what I'm here to share. And that's the integration. That's the challenge. That is the merging of the masculine and the feminine. That's the merging of both of those. That's the ability to hear and see and understand that there is a part of me that needs to be, fed, and there is a part of me that knows and needs to just serve. And learning how to bring both of those together and allow both of those to live in this same space. And then for each of us to figure out how to really soften the ego and not allow it to fog up what you're here to do. And then going back to this balancing of the masculine and the feminine, really walking this path of doing and continuing to move forward and completely surrendering to all of it. The balance between creating and doing absolutely nothing. The balance between really being in your own space and holding your own container and becoming one with all, right? There's a wholeness. We are all together. We are all one. And yet I am very separate in my own sovereignty. And so that's what we're starting to do. That is the integration of the feminine and the masculine. That's the integration of these two frequencies that we are starting to really begin to do. And so when we're all talking about this, the rise of the feminine, right? The rise of this feminine consciousness, it's actually just Mother God that is bringing in this frequency for us to hold within our hearts, to begin to move and live in a integrated space, an equilibrium where we are living from our hearts and our minds. So the Lemurians are active, they build, they create, they do, they allow that mind, that masculine, to play a role, but they are also very much in their hearts. And they communicate from their hearts. They allow their hearts to sort of lead their path, lead the direction that they're being guided to go, the manifestations that they create. And so they have been able to really find a beautiful balance. And they understand the importance of both. And so what's happening on the planet is there is this divide that's sort of beginning, or not even beginning, but there is this division of the feminine rising and, really coming into your feminine consciousness, and this very separate division of that, right? The masculine and the feminine, and what's better and what's worse, and what are you living in, and that's not it. It's a frequency. It's just a frequency that's coming in that we need to integrate. It's very simple. And so if you look at it in terms of that, as opposed to, really needing to, take charge of the fact that we've been held down for so many thousands of years as a woman, and that, we've been stuffed and our voices have been, if you understand that for thousands of years we've lived both as a male and a female, we've all lived in mostly a masculine energy, and we've all lived many lifetimes as females and many lifetimes as males. And so all it is an understanding that there is a new power, not even new, excuse me for saying new, but it is a God frequency that people call, like, say, the mother God frequency, love, that is pouring down onto us now, reawakening us, reminding us that it's time to pull this frequency back in and integrate it with that very male masculine energy that we have been living only in for thousands and thousands of years. That's all it is. It is not a I am woman, hear me roar. That's not what this is. It is a heart consciousness, a heart frequency that is being awakened within us. And so we call it feminine, and we call it whatever we want, and we attach whatever ideas and beliefs we want around it. But it is just a frequency, and it is based in the heart space, and it emanates love. And so it has nothing to do with a male species or a female species. But what it feels like is, it feels like a feminine aspect of ourselves is rising up. A feminine aspect of ourselves is reawakening, right? And it's happening in both a male being and a female being. And so this division between masculine and feminine, and where are you living, and what are you taking action from, the masculine or the feminine, that is not what this is about. It is about the integration of both of these energies coming together, and being super stoked on the fact that this frequency that's coming in, this mother love, this mother God frequency, this heart-centered frequency, is finally coming in, finally activating within us, finally reminding us, oh my gosh, that's right. There is this other part of us, this huge light component of us that we have not been able to live because it's not been coming down. We haven't been open to it. And now we are again, It doesn't matter if you're a male or a female on this planet at this time. You know, it's time for us to really get clear on the fact that this is not about a female woman on the planet, you know, rising up to her power. It's about a frequency coming in that is love, that is love consciousness. Period. That's it. And we call it the female, we call it the feminine rising, the feminine consciousness, or whatever it is that people are calling it. But all it is a frequency of love that is coming in, that is activating all these people within them, and it's bringing out all these new qualities that kind of have been stuffed down, right? But what these star beings were saying was it's just an integration of learning how to integrate these two frequencies that we lived with a long time ago, and watching how the ego plays the role in all of that, right? And it's not about the female rising up or the male, you know, being more powerful than a male or any of that. That's what it looks, that's how it's playing out perhaps on the planet, you know, because think about it, as the heart awakens, as the heart opens up, the way we've been living for so long in that masculine way, it starts to kind of be pushed aside because this feels so much better. Like, oh my gosh, you know, it's just a different frequency, of living. So we're getting confused on how it's playing, how it's really playing out. And so if you can look at it as literally just two different frequencies that we are here to integrate as a third dimensional being shifting into a fifth dimensional being, you'll look at it a little bit differently, right? So you can literally imagine the heart frequency, which is feminine, Mother God, and the mind frequency, masculine, Father God, coming together to merge, right, into this wholeness, into this unity, into this oneness, then you'll have a better understanding of what's really going on. That it's just frequency, and that it is not a male and female sort of battling, you know. It's just a frequency of two separate frequencies coming together, and the masculine has controlled and only been the frequency that we've been living in for thousands of years. You know, that was what happened when we fell from grace. We cut off our hearts, and when you cut off the heart frequency, that's the female frequency. And so once that female frequency is kind of blocked off, all we had was the mind frequency, and that's what we lived from. That's the only thing we had to live from. And now with this new awakening, ascension, and shifting into this fifth dimensional frequency, the more light we bring in, we are bringing in a lot more of that Mother God light, right? The feminine, and it's activating our hearts. And that's what's causing all of these beautiful feminine things coming to the surface. And now it's just a matter of merging, bringing together, watching how the ego responds, and not judging, and not saying one thing's better than the other, you know, just the merging. So I hope this was useful in some way. I hope I was able to explain it clearly. I'm not sure if I was or not. I don't know what this piece of hair is doing. I wasn't expecting to do a YouTube video, so I'm a little bit like dismantled with my hair, but whatever. Anyways, that's going to be it for now. If you have any questions or any comments, just leave them down below. I would love to hear from you. And all my information is below as well, where you can find me, how you can email me, anything like that. And I love you all. May you continue rising. May you remember how powerful and how heroic you are, and how important you are to this journey. And to trust yourself, to love yourself, to surrender, and to know that it's all perfect. It's all divine, and it's all unfolding for you exactly the way it's supposed to. And remember that you're just merging the masculine and the feminine together. those two beautiful frequencies, Mother God, Father God. And that's it. I love you, and I'll see you next time. Bye.